Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Mingming Zhou, and I come from University of Macau. So I'm now working in the Faculty of Education in the University of Macau. So we are located on this small island city, very close to Hong Kong, if you are not so familiar. So we are bragging ourselves about a lot of grand hotels and casinos. So they are part of the addiction system. But today I would like to talk a little bit more about social media addiction instead of gambling and other things. So one of my projects I work with my PhD students is to look at how nowadays children and adolescents in different areas of China, including those cities and the rural areas, and how they interact with the social media, especially nowadays the short form videos are getting more and more popular, but how those things would affect the children's and adolescents' well-being, including their school well-being and subject well-being. So today I'm going to share one of our recent empirical project regarding this topic. So in the first place, I would love to say a little bit more about the overall research background. So actually, with a lot of mobile internet applications developed over the past decade, so people are getting more and more immersed in using mobile phones for different purposes. And according to the figure on the left-hand side, you see almost 97% of users of mobiles would love to use these mobile apps to message people, to keep their connections with the world. But then what comes to the second place is the web video, and third place, short video viewing. So here, this caught our attention because we have seen such activities on those mobile applications have driven a lot of users, including a lot of young users, to actively integrate themselves into this whole information network in this information era. So the right-hand side figure was taken from the Statista Research Department, and it shows that as of June last year, the online video usage rate has already reached 96.7%. That is a very high percentage just in China. And that is equivalent to about over 1 billion users. And moreover, another organization, China Network Audio-Visual Development Research Report, they also reported that people typically spend 2.5 hours every day just by watching those short-form videos. And we are shocked when we read those statistics, because when we are watching the videos, we do not feel time elapsed so fast. But then if you look at the statistics, it is surprisingly how many hours we spend every day on watching those videos. So this has led to another concern, which is whether people would be addicted to view those short-form videos. And actually, in the literature in the past few years, scholars have identified this phenomenon as serious as we could imagine. So scholars have provided an academic definition of this term, short video addiction, which is a chronic or cyclical state of obsession caused by repeated long hours of using short video apps. And this is typically accompanied by intense and persistent cravings, even though the users themselves may be fully aware of all kinds of adverse outcomes they may encounter. So here, but could we just make a simple conclusion that short videos is just bad? Actually, we do benefit from watching those videos, and from the educators' perspectives, a lot of educational practitioners are using those short videos as part of their teaching tools. They play the videos on scientific experiments, on history, on geography, and play them in class as part of their teaching. So with these characteristics of high mobility, interactivity, easy access, and diverse content provided in those videos, we actually can access a large pool of knowledge and education. So from this sense, this has greatly satisfied multiple needs of users. However, those videos could be used for educational purposes or entertainment purposes, but overuse of or overviewing of those videos could also create a lot of problems. For example, researchers have found that short video addiction has led to increased depressive symptoms, and they reduced subjective well-being and deteriorated, for example, relationships between parent and children. So I have collected a very small summary of all those concerns as a result of viewing short videos as an obsession. So all those recent studies have repeatedly evidenced that you watch a lot of hours of short videos, this could cause a lot of stress or academic procrastination, and it lowers down the level of your analytical thinking, but it may increase your risky decision making. And also, attention control, working memory would also suffer from watching a lot of short videos. And a lot of young age groups who view those videos typically experience some emotional impulsivity. Yeah. So now, up to this point, I want to draw your attention to the theoretical grounding or psychological mechanisms of why people are attracted to watching those short videos. So in the first place, I want to introduce this dual process theory. So this theory was a classical theory developed in 1977. So it was used to explain how the two systems work together in our mind. So basically, humans' cognitive processing consists of two systems in parallel. One is the automatic processing, and the other is controlled processing. And for automatic processing, basically, it refers to well-practiced behavioral patterns and a lot of specific procedures, steps, and instructions could have become almost unconscious actions. You do it without much thinking. Whereas controlled processing is limited by our cognitive resources because it requires quite a bit amount of conscious attention and adjustment based on our environment. And just due to these limited cognitive resources, the controlled processing system is weak or even easily to be impaired. And when this happens, the influence of the automatic processing will become greater. So people tend to be dominated by their automatic processing, which does not require a lot of cognitive resources. And so addictive behavior is related to this type of automatic processing and the weakening of the controlled processing systems. Imagine when we watch short videos, our attentional resources are highly focused on those visual or auditory information processing, which is just available in front of our eyes. While difficulties would arise when we try to regulate our attention intentionally and execute some cognitive control, which demands a lot of cognitive regulation and resources. And this has become quite challenging for a lot of people who may not be comfortable with using their resources to intentionally regulate their attention and cognition. And from another perspective, which is the neuroscientific perspective, a lot of recent research in this field make another suggestion that frequent social media engagement actually would affect our brain's dopamine system. So this is a neurotransmitter that is responsible for our motivation and pleasure. So short-form videos, they intentionally incorporate a lot of features that would increase our high and compulsive use. So each swipe on your mobile phone just delivers unpredictable content, which arouses a lot of our interest. And this could contribute these reward-based patterns of repeated engagement and makes it very hard to disengage. So when we are scrolling down the screen through an endless stream of content, it could make us feel very compulsive because it triggers an immediate reward system, just similar to those drug use or gambling. So this accessibility of social media makes it even particularly dangerous as we carry on this dopamine dispenser in our pockets every day, all the time. So we could access it whenever we have 1 minute, 1 second of break. This just becomes so easy, and we receive the so-called reward every minute we watch the video and access the content as recommended by these personalized algorithms. So speaking of those theoretical groundings or backgrounds, so this pushes us as educators in terms of whether or not the short video addiction would have an impact on our school samples, for example, students. So of course, statistics have shown that the users, the watchers of those short videos have become younger and younger. A lot of teenagers or even below 10 years old, those children, they would love to swipe off their screen and watch the videos hours after hours without any stop. So we're thinking whether or not this kind of behavior would also have a direct impact on school performance and variables. And a review of literature has clearly shown that such short video addiction has negative relationships with a lot of school variables, including school children's learning habit, their perceived learning competence, their learning motivation, their learning well-being, and eventually their academic performance. And on the other hand, for some unexpected, undesired learning behaviors such as academic procrastination, short video increase such tendency. And that is not something we expect to see. So here, I want to focus on two main school variables, which is social inclusion and the school engagement. For social inclusion, social has become more and more critical. Why? In school, students do not go there just for learning. They have a lot of social responsibilities and social needs. So whether or not they could be socially accepted by their classmates, they could have some meaningful, positive friendships, and whether or not they could experience a sense of belonging in their school life has a critical role in defining and characterizing their school experiences. Well, short-form videos, they introduce new social dynamics. And these new dynamics could just undermine these inclusive interactions. And why, specifically, short video form addiction tends to weaken such social inclusion, because individuals who are addicted to watching those videos tend to neglect face-to-face interactions and real-life relationships. And they would prefer online activities. And also, this short-form video addiction would be more likely to foster anxious or even avoidant attachment patterns. And this would subsequently impair our students' ability to build a trusting and stable connection with their peers, their family members, and in their neighborhood. And this would in turn decrease the social inclusion. And last but not least, when you watch videos online day by day, hours after hours, there would be a decline in the user's social skills. And this declination would also increase their social anxiety and self-doubt, which would all decrease their social inclusion. So speaking of another school variable, that is school engagement. So this construct has been researched a lot, and researchers tend to agree that this is a multi-dimensional construct that includes different levels of engagement. Basically, there are behavioral level, emotional level, and a cognitive level of engagement in learning and in school life. So what happens if a child excessively access short-form videos? Research has shown that excessive use of short-form videos would lower down their level of school engagement, because if you watch a lot of videos, this would displace students' time and energy that could have been spent on academic tasks. And also, while those short-form videos, so it demands rapid attention shifts because of this fast-paced and stimulating content from each short video. And this would impair students' ability to sustain their focus and attention on those complicated, cognitively demanding academic tasks. And in turn, this would also lead to decreased school engagement. On the other hand, those videos, they are interesting. So this entertaining nature actually makes learning less appealing and attractive. Imagine on one hand, you have videos, all the music, animation, and all those interesting plots and something that is beyond the imagination in comparison to those drill and the practices, textbooks, worksheets. Students will have less passion for learning. And last, the access of short-form videos would also increase psychological distress and disrupt students' physical health and their academic habits. And this would also make them less like their school life. So, speaking of the relationships between short-form video watching and the school variables, I want to bring in this self-determination theory, which is the theoretical grounding of this project. So basically, this theory has going on for decades. It has been shown to be a very powerful theory that could explain students' learning motivation, behavior, and well-being. So in this theory, they propose three basic psychological needs that is universal to everybody. So one need is autonomy. That means we human beings, we need the option and opportunities to make decisions by ourselves. So we look for options and we provide solutions. So here we experience and enjoy the sense of autonomy of being myself and making my own decision. And the second need is about a person's competence. So basically, we need to build this trust in ourselves, believing in ourselves that I can do this, I can complete this, and I can do it as well as I can imagine and expect. The third need is relatedness, and this is concerned with me and my fellows around me. So here, collaboration, communication has become critically important in any human being's life. So all those three needs have been identified as basic needs that we need to satisfy those needs in order to have better self-control, self-regulation. So this would help us reduce any undesired addiction. So here, if there's a lack of autonomy or competence or relatedness, so the individuals tend to seek compensatory behavior to fulfill those unmet needs, such as I will repeatedly do something for a long time. And if there is a chronic frustration of those needs, so it will create a psychological vulnerability that would further drive us to seek substitute forms of fulfillment. And this links to another theory called compensatory internet use theory. So basically, in this theory, we are talking about whether or not there is something we can use to substitute the needs that have not been met. So those unmet needs would require us to find something for compensatory purposes as a coping strategy to avoid or distract ourselves from being engaged in those negative life events, thoughts, and even worries. So these two theories actually would allow us to understand why some people have a hard time in disconnecting themselves from watching those videos or those internet activities. So instead of putting effort and energy on something meaningful, why those things keep attracting themselves for a long period of time. So here, in terms of how those needs would be linked to school engagement, past studies have confirmed that students with a higher satisfaction of those basic needs, they would love to participate in more school activities and invest more effort in their learning and show deeper cognitive involvement in their learning. And all those positive things would contribute to a sense of school engagement. And for social inclusion, similarly, the satisfaction of those basic needs would promote individuals' initiative in all types of social activities and adapt their motivation development, such as they could be better immersed and connected with the external world. Yeah. So a low level of the satisfaction of those basic needs would actually be correlated with obsessive passion that may increase the behavioral addiction symptoms, such as the short-form video addiction. Yeah. So based on those theoretical explanations, we try to test out this research model by collecting survey data from children in rural China. So we placed a short-form video addiction in the center as a mediator in this model, and the basic psychological need satisfaction would be the antecedent of this addiction, and school engagement and social inclusion would be the two main outcomes of short-form video addiction. So those are the 4 research questions we want to address. For example, whether or not the basic psychological needs satisfaction would be related to school engagement and social inclusion as we expected, and how or whether short-form video addiction mediates the relationship between the psychological needs satisfaction and school variables. So we have collected data from 527 children, half and half girls and boys, from 2 elementary schools in rural China. And they come from grade 3, 4, 5, and 6. We also asked them about their family conditions, for example, whom they're living with right now. Yeah. So we use survey scales to collect their perceived responses to those key constructs in the model, including the basic needs satisfaction scale, social network service addiction scale, social inclusion scale, and school engagement scale. And first, we took a look at the correlation patterns among those key variables. Yeah. And so here, all the correlation patterns are in the expected directions as indicated in previous studies. So we see moderate correlations, positive correlations among all those variables. Yeah. And then we try to test out the hypothesized model by running SEM, structural equation modeling. We first run the model with a whole sample of over 500 children. And it turns out that the psychological needs satisfaction were positively related to the two school variables, social inclusion and school engagement. And it also predicted short-form video addiction. This is unexpected because we're thinking, once their needs were satisfied, they should not be attracted that much by this short video thing. But our results turned out to be opposite. Yeah. So why? So we're trying to figure out why those children who have a higher level of sense of autonomy, competence, or relatedness, they still, well, even though it's not a strong correlation, but they still have the tendency to be engaged in watching short videos. So if we look at the technical structures of those short videos, actually, those short videos do provide a lot of autonomy for users to choose and to follow what kind of videos you want to watch. And we would suspect this autonomy provided by these short-form social media platforms can actually strengthen the children's sense of autonomy. So in this sense, we might have a positive, even though it's weak, correlation. And from short-form video addiction, there is consistent negative correlation pattern between this addiction with different levels of engagement and social inclusion, which is consistent with the past literature. So the more addicted you are, and then it turns out to be you will be less engaged in school and not very included in the social connections. And interestingly, we also ran the model for boys and girls separately. And we did see some different relationship patterns for boys and for girls. So for boys, it's on the upper figure. So we, for both genders, the psychological needs satisfaction was correlated with the children's engagement in school and social inclusion, no surprise. And the short-form video addiction was negatively related with behavioral school engagement, yeah. But for boys, the psychological needs satisfaction was only found to be associated with short-form video addiction. So this only happened for boys, but not for girls. And also for boys, we also see a negative correlation between the video addiction and social inclusion. Again, not for girls. So what has been observed for girls only, that is the relationship between short-form video addiction and their emotional school engagement. So here we have to draw your attention to the different personality patterns or profiles of different gender. And for girls who are more characterized with more emotionally engaged in their decision-making and experience, so the short video addiction has turned out to play a more or greater role in their emotional school engagement. But this was not observed for boys, yeah. And for Boys, yeah. So the behavioral school engagement was more affected by their short form video addiction. So depending on what type of contents boys or girls would love to watch, so different relationship patterns would also be observed. So boys, we could reasonably predict the videos they watched may be more active or even more violent than girls who may watch the videos for a lot of entertainment. So here, this is not a data-based conclusion. So next step, we want to focus on the content of watching those short-form videos so we could make better sense of why the short video addiction plays different roles to explain different types of engagement in school. Yeah. So at last, as a recommendation, from our research projects, we did observe a few things that we want to share with the whole research community in this line of research. First, perhaps in the future, we will agree with some scholars, the focus of this line of research could be shifted from looking for the harmful outcomes of this addiction to the causes of such addiction, especially from a psychological or physiological or even technological perspective. And also for research approach, now we have seen quite a bit of studies using surveys, interviews, or even MRI, neuroimaging. So we're thinking perhaps in the future studies, we could either combine those different methods or create more digitally or technology-based approaches to innovate such a research program. And last but not least, we do acknowledge the benefits of such algorithms that bring a lot of convenience and personalized recommendation, but they also pose a potential threat to public communication, ideological security, and social aesthetics. So there could be a closed loop between the short video usage and this algorithm optimization, because if you can imagine, if the algorithm is more and more optimized, then what we would expect, the addiction would become more serious because they accurately capture the interest or what could arouse this user's interest within a very short period of time. Yeah. So my final word here is whether or not we want to conclude this short form video or in general social media is good or evil, but we are all faced with one choice, is we have to think about what social media can do for us. Is for our growth or is for our destruction? So I would believe that social media is neither inherently good or bad. It's a tool, it's a platform. So its impact depends on how we use it. So the key here lies in the way we could make the best of use of social media and what intention we have behind our use. So again, I would love to hear from our colleagues in this research area to share with me some of your comments and suggestions. Thank you very much.